Right, Mom. I'm very well.
Yeah, guess one. I'm older than you. I can ask you that question, but you can't ask me.
Oh my God.
Nah, that's why I want to ask. I can see that you woke up very well.
Yeah, we did.
Good morning once more and welcome. We are about to start. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Yalegi Lelusibane. I'm the Acting Chief Executive Officer of the Public Protector South Africa. It is an honor and a privilege for me to be moderating the program today on such a significant and historic occasion. On behalf of Public Protector South Africa, let me welcome and thank all of our panelists for having taken time off their hectic schedules to join us on this webinar. I will introduce each of the esteemed panelists at a later stage. We also have guests who are not necessarily on the panel but have joined us via the Zoom platform. Welcome and thank you too for taking the time to be with us this morning. You will also have an opportunity to comment during the course of the program. A warm welcome and gratitude to members of the public who are also joining us on YouTube. I encourage all of you joining us on YouTube to use the comment section to link up with us. To an extent possible, we will air your views here for the panel's consideration as well. Before I introduce the panel, I would like to go briefly back into time with regards to the creation of the Public Protector Office. 211 years ago in Sweden, an institution called the Ombudsman was born. Established in the Swedish Constitution of 1809, the institution was meant to serve as an intermediary between citizens and leaders in times of disputes. It was also meant to provide additional safeguards to complement what traditional checks and balances such as the courts were already doing. However, it was distinguishable from other accountability avenues in that it was a quick, cost-effective, and less sophisticated mechanism for people to vindicate their rights while holding their leaders to account. Following its birth in Scandinavia, the institution spread rapidly across Europe. 157 years later, Africa followed suit when the continent's first ombudsman was established in Tanzania in 1966. South Africa established a variation of the institution and called it the Office of the Advocate General in 1979. In 1991, the Advocate General was reinvented as the Office of the Ombudsman. In 1992, as the apartheid wheels started coming off, the current governing party proposed, I quote, "A full-time independent office of the Ombud should be created with wide powers to investigate complaints with wide powers to investigate complaints against members of the public service and other holders of public office, and to investigate allegations of corruption and abuse of power, rudeness, and maladministration," close quote. This was during the watershed CODESA talks. The party also stated that the Ombud should be appointed by and be answerable to Parliament and also have the power to provide adequate remedies. In 1993, following CODESA, the interim constitution of the country came into force, Chapter 8 of which made provision for the establishment of the Public Protector, whose powers were similar to those of the Office of the Ombudsman of 1991, which it replaced. The following year, the Democratic Parliament passed the Public Protector Act 23 of 1994 to give effect to the provisions of Section 110 and 114 in the Chapter 8 of the interim constitution. This paved the way for the Office of the Public Protector to open its doors for the service for the first time in October 1995. Accordingly, this office turns 25 this month. We have therefore convened this virtual gathering to celebrate this important milestone. We do so under the theme, 25 years of protecting the public. For those of you who are active on social media currently, kindly use hashtag PP1025 on all your tweets and Facebook texts in relation to this event. To help us reflect on the last quarter century while also looking to the future, we've assembled a panel made up of the following esteemed guests. We have the former Deputy Public Protector, Advocate Mamiki Goodman, who served this institution between 2005 and 2012. She was the first DPP in the history of this institution. We also have the former Public Protector and the Chairperson of the Law Faculty Trust in Social Justice, Professor Thuli Madonsela. She was the third PP in the history of the institution, and she served between 2009 and 2016. We also have the current Deputy Public Protector, Advocate Koleka Gcaleka, who joined the institution in February this year as the third DPP since the establishment of this institution. We also have the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Honorable Ronald Lamola. We have the current Public Protector, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, who was appointed to the position in 2016 as the fourth Public Protector of South Africa. Lastly, but not least, we have the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Thandi Modise. In terms of Section 181, subsection 5 of the Constitution, the Public Protector accounts to the National Assembly and must report to the Assembly on its activities at least once a year. I must put on record the fact that invitations were extended to other former public protectors, Judge Selby Pakwa and Advocate Lawrence Bushwana. However, they were unable to join us due to prior commitments. The same is true for Advocate Kevin Malunga, who served as the Deputy Public Protector between 2012 and 2019. Judge Pakwa has, however, sent a pre-recorded video message, which we will play during the course of the program. In addition to these esteemed panelists, we have other guests whose presence I would like to also acknowledge. From the National Freedom Party, we've got Mr. Mdletshe. From the Congress of the People, we've got Mr. Hanare. From Al Jama'ah, we've got Mr. Ahmad. It must be noted that an invitation was also extended to all other political parties represented in Parliament. Now, in terms of how the program will run, we will take 3 addresses, one from the Public Protector, Advocate Mkhwebane, followed by the Minister of Justice, and thereafter we'll have the Speaker, Honorable Modise. During the panelists, each panelist will be given a few minutes to do their introductory remarks. Now, without any further ado, I would like to invite Public Protector Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane to deliver her opening and welcoming address. Over to you, PP, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Program Director, Moderator, Ms. Lusibane, Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Thandi Modise, Minister of Justice, Honorable Ronald Lamola, Judge of the High Court, Judge Selby Pakwa in absentia, Deputy Public Protector Advocate Gcaleka, former Public Protector Professor Thuli Madonsela, former Deputy Public Protector Advocate Mamiki Goodman, as distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I know we also have the Honorable Mufokeng from the Justice Portfolio Committee. Good morning, and thank you so much for accepting our invite to come and celebrate this milestone with us. As you would know, October is a very special month for us because it was on this day in 1995 that this office opened its doors for the first time to serve the people of South Africa under the name Public Protector. This was a turning point, making a clean break with the past shortly after the country attained freedom. As the program moderator has correctly put it, the Public Protector rose from the ashes of an apartheid institution of a similar character established in 1991 called the Office of the Ombudsman. The Office of the Ombudsman succeeded an institution established in the 70s under the name Advocate General. Unlike the Public Protector, both those offices were not independent and fell under the wings of the Department of Justice. We already heard that the establishment of this institution was already among the proposal put forward by the current governing party as far back as 1992. In an address at Suzhou University in Taiwan in 1993, the late former President Nelson Mandela who was not yet president at the time, announced that South Africa's future governing party had, in addition to substantive provision of a Bill of Rights, proposed further mechanisms to develop and increase confidence in the way rights were to be handled. These mechanisms included an ombud, a defender of citizens with comprehensive power. This same year, in fact, that same year, the interim constitution came into force, Chapter 8 of which provided for the establishment of the public protector, whose powers were similar to those of the Office of the Ombudsman of 1991. In the following year, the Democratic Parliament passed the Public Protector Act 23 of 1994, which gave effect to the provisions of Section 110 to 114 under Chapter 8 of the Interim Constitution, leading to the moment we are celebrating today. Meanwhile, work was underway to finalize the constitution that is in force today. For this constitution to come into force, the Constitutional Court had to certify that the full text of the document compiled with a list of constitutional principles set out in Schedule 4 of the Interim Constitution. So I would then want to indicate that the final constitution then was established under Section 181 as an independent, only subject to the Constitution and the rule of law, stating that the institution is impartial and must exercise its powers, perform its function without fear, favor, or prejudice. Other organs of state must support and assist the public protector to ensure its independence, impartiality, dignity, and effectiveness. No person or organ of state may interfere with the functioning of the public protector. The office draws its investigative, reporting, and remedial powers from Section 182 of the Constitution and has additional powers and functions as regulated by the national legislation, which is the Public Protector Act. I do not wish to preach to the converted, save to say in the EFF versus the Speaker of the National Assembly judgment, Chief Justice Mogoeng put the question of the role of the public protector in similar terms, and he said, I quote, "The public protector is one of the most invaluable constitutional gifts to our nation in the fight against corruption, unlawful enrichment, prejudice, and impropriety in state affairs, and for the betterment of good governance. The tentacles of poverty run far, wide, and deep in our nation. Litigation is prohibitively expensive and therefore not an easily exercisable constitutional option for an average citizen. For this reason, the fathers and mothers of our Constitution conceived a way to give even to the poor and marginalized a voice and teeth that would fight corruption and abuse excruciatingly. And that is the public protector, who is she's an embodiment of a biblical David, that the public protector is, who fights the most powerful and very well-resourced Goliath that impropriety and corruption by government officials are." I close quote. In essence, this means the public protector is the last hope for the poor and the leveler of the playing field. This office helps those who do not have bottomless pockets to litigate, so that they too can access justice, exact accountability on their leaders, and vindicate their rights. We call this stratum of society the grassroots community. You find them in the rural villages of our land, the informal settlements, the farms, the townships. Indeed, this institution comes from humble beginnings. It has grown and evolved so much since the time it operated from the office, a loan office, which was located on Fisage Street in Pretoria, with a staff complement of only 8 people and a budget of only 1.6 million. Some of those people are still with the office today and have enjoyed a front row seat to witness this growth and evolution. Now we have 18 offices across the country, a staff complement of more than 340 people, and a budget in excess of 300 million. We give thanks to those who came before us. They laid the foundation for us to come in and focus on taking the services of the institution to the grassroots in line with the ambitious plan, which we call Vision 2023. Judge Selby Bakwa led the office during its baby steps from 5 to 2002, carrying out the mammoth task of putting in a system, ensuring that the
Apologies there, we lost you a bit, PP. PP? PP? Okay, we lost the PP. Nonetheless, we will continue. Thank you, Public Protector, for the thought-provoking address. I take it that fellow panelists were taking notes in order for us to deliberate on these thoughts at a later stage. Let me now call upon Minister Lamula to deliver his message of support. Over to you, Honorable Minister. Minister Lamula.
Let me unmute him.
I lost connection. Apology to everyone. As I was saying that, but I would not want to reduce our work to numbers, because for the last 25 years, we've processed or we've helped complaints of around 300,000 or more than 300,000. It's just an estimate, but I would not want to reduce our impactful work that my predecessors and I have put in place over the year numbers. So this estimated 300,000 complaints means as many people approached us or had people, in fact, who assisted them to approach us so that they can vindicate their rights. It is likely that where we took remedial action to redress maladministration, much more people in their hundreds of thousands were impacted. Whether it is in the Sarafina Play matter, which was dealt with by Judge Bakwa in the 90s, or the National Dam case, which advocate the Nandoni Dam case, which an advocate Mushwana dealt with in 2008, or the vendor pensions matter, which advocate Madonsela addressed in 2012, there is a lot of evidence that the office has already protected the public and made a huge difference in the livelihoods of the marginalized grassroots communities. We learned with delight last week that the government has decided to implement the remedial action in the Nandoni Dam case, while the 11-year delay of implementing that remedial action subjected the people affected more pain and suffering. We welcome the move by government to do the right thing. Our one hopes that the same will happen in the case of the vendor pension fund, which government took on review last year after a 7-year period during which there was commitment to implement the remedial action taken by Advocate Madonsela in 2012. Today, standing on the shoulders of all the previous public protectors, we continue to make our mark, ensuring that people have access to water, housing, and other basic services. We also see to it that those who are owed pensions are paid with interest, small business people who are owed money are paid with interest, and young mothers who are owed child maintenance are assisted by the necessary organs of state. communities in Masiphumelele in Cape Town, Western Cape, Ikemeleng in Roodepoort, Gauteng, Ngaka Modiri Molemo in the Northwest, Musina and Vembe in Limpopo have felt the impact of our work, but more still needs to be done. The population of it was around 41 million in 1995 when the office opened the services of this institution are needed more than ever before to ensure access to justice for the poor. Play an active role in the African Ombudsman and Mediators Association. Both Advocate Mushwana and Professor Madonsela have served as secretaries of IOMA, while I have been privileged to serve as the first vice president. Currently, I am the IOMA president. We are making our mark to help the inhabitants of this continent realize the Africa we want, where there will be peace and all guns will be silent, where good governance, respect of the rule of law, and upholding of human rights will be the order of the day. But as you 95 to this point has not been easy. That way, governing party factions, that we are biased in favor of one factions and that we are targeting some executive. And this narrative is that we are part of the so-called pushback against the fight against corruption. Compounding this is the fact more that ever the institution gets bogged litigation. The state has taken a draining litigious approach towards the public protector. And unfortunately, this was the problem, or this continued to increase after the EFF versus the Speaker case, where the court decided that the remedial action of the public protector are binding. Don't get me wrong, the sentiment of the Constitutional Court ruling assisted us as well in building the democracy which we want. And at the time, Professor Madonsela will tell us, people disregarded the office's remedial action out of hand, arguing that the public protector was not a court of law. Following that ruling, we had a lot of then increased litigation against the institution. So from the time I was a senior investigator in this institution 20 years ago until my return as public protector 4 years ago, this office didn't have within its corporate services division a business unit called legal services. This was because of the litigation. Currently, we do have a manager who's dealing with the litigation because we are trying by all means to reduce our litigation costs. And I must indicate that we try by all means to also work with other state institutions who will make sure that they assist us in performing our duties. And also we learn from the rulings of the courts, which are also there for us to develop our legal systems. And as well, there are those which we are putting forward or opposing because we are not taking institutions to court. Court on review, and fair to the members of the public. I will also deal with Chapter 9 do not have, which is to hold the members of the executive to account, the Members Ethics Act, and this piece of legislation, that's which is utilized by a lot of politicians, especially the opposition parties, to hold the executive to account, and that's where the public protector would investigate, and it obligates the public protector to investigate within 30 days. As the public protector, we are apolitical, but the law, such as the Executive Members Ethics Act, forces us to operate in a political space. We would never know who belongs to which factions, but then we will make sure that we take any case, irrespective of who is complaining. And as I've indicated, or again, the findings which we had differ across the spectrum, the color line, and each political party, and the reports which we've issued. So where does the narrative that we are playing politics, unfortunately, is misdirected? I will then want to make a humble submission that this institution be funded properly as is provided for under the National Development Plan, and so that we can be able to assist the poor, the marginalized, and the downtrodden, and those who need us the most, who don't have the necessary resources to take the state to court. Let our disagreements with this one person, Advocate Mkhwebane, not induce the surgical removal of an independent institution or constitutional institution from the accountability and integrity table. Now, more than ever before, we need to run on all engines. As the saying goes, let us build strong institutions and not strong men or women. I would like to wish Public Protector South Africa staff a happy 25th anniversary, and ask them to believe and have faith, and we will make it to the promised land. Thank you, program moderator, and apology for being offline most of the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Public Protector. Thank you so much. Indeed, we lost you at some point, but we heard the greater part of your speech. Thank you very much. Before we go to the next address, I would like to acknowledge the following people. We've got the chairperson of the IEC, Mr. Glenn Mashinini, who has also joined us. We also have the chairperson of the CGE, Ms. Tamara Matebula. We also have got the Public Service Commission chairperson, Advocate Richard Sizani. I also want to welcome all the ombudsmen across the continent, as well as our IOC members. Thank you for being part of us and in celebrating our 25 years of protecting the public. I would like now to call upon Minister Lamula to give us his message of support. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Program Director. The Public Protector, Advocate Busio Mkhwebane, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Mr. Thandi Modise, the former Public Protectors, Advocate Thuluma Donzele, and Advocate Selby Batwa in absentia, the former Deputy Public Protector, Advocate Mamiki Goodman, and the current Deputy Public Protector, Advocate Kollega Chalega. It's an honor for us to participate in this discussion as a department. In 1992, the African National Congress envisioned an institution that will safeguard the rights of citizens in a free and a democratic South Africa. In the Ready to Govern document, the ruling party resolved that an independent office of the Ombudsman will be created to investigate allegations of partisanships in allocation of resources, maladministration, and corruption. This led to the establishment of the Office of the Public Protector as we know it today. Speaking on the importance of this institution, our first democratic president, Tata Nelson Mandela, said, "We were mindful from the very start of the importance of accountability to democracy. Our experience had many of us acutely aware of the possible dangers of government that is neither transparent nor accountable. To this end, our constitution contains several mechanisms to ensure that government will not be part of the problem, but part of the solution. He went further to say that our Public Protector's Office is not only a critical instrument for good governance, it also occupies a central place in the transformation of the public service by, among other means, rooting out the arrogance, secrecy, and corruption so rampant during the apartheid years. Close quote. It is against this background that I have great pleasure to celebrate the milestone of this very important institution in our constitutional democracy, the Office of the Public Protector. COVID-19 has robbed us of the privilege of physical interaction, but our resilience and commitment to advance and promote the values of our constitution in our communities and in the corridors of power call upon all of us to celebrate this important office in our constitutional democracy. For us, just over a quarter of a century, South Africans from all walks of life have seen, felt, and touched the Constitution through this office. For just over a quarter of a century, South Africans from all walks of life have seen and felt the text of our Constitution coming through this office of the Public Protector. Professor Thuli Madonsela provided a beautiful but simple analogy, which in my mind best explains the influence of this constitutional office. In her analogy, Professor Madonsela stated that the Public Protector is very much like the McCarthy among the Venda regents. She whispers sage advice in the corridors of power, whilst at the same time playing a pivotal role to ensure that community morals are not trampled upon by the rulers of the day. As many here on this platform may be aware, the Constitutional Court, in its first certification judgment, said the Public Protector is an office modeled on the institution of the Ombudsman, whose function is to ensure that government officials carry out their task effectively, fairly, and without corruption or prejudice. Indeed, our Constitution matures, this office becomes more critical in that development. While the Department of Justice and the justice system as a whole, its primary consideration is access to justice, I have no doubt that the Office of the Public Protectors amplifies this. It is an important conduit of social justice. I recall in particular a case which also involved pensioners in Venda. The former Homeland had resorted to privatizing the pension scheme, apparently in order to protect the retirement income of members of the Venda pension fund. The affected pensioners were not paid. Information and documents provided by the complainants reflected appointment date back as far as 1950. The pensionable services for the employees was only calculated from 1993, after they were forced to exit the system in 1992. In a report from the Public Protector titled Equitable Access to Social Security, the Office of the Public Protector made it clear that the payment of compensation is not a matter of charity, but a requirement of justice to redress the wrong. We hope there will be an amicable solution to this impasse. It is becoming increasingly clear that our state needs institutionalized ethics, and the Office of the Public Protector has played a critical role in this regard. Moreover, in instances where government departments fail to meet the basic expectations of citizens, it is this office that exacts the constitutional obligations of government to ensure that social justice prevails. I have no doubt that the Office of the Public Protector is an engine of constitutional development. As we celebrate the 25 years of our constitutional dispensation, we must acknowledge that it is this institution, along with the judiciary, that has kept the Constitution afloat. To put it simple, this office has played a critical role in restraining the abuse of state power. The power of the office lies primarily in the fact that its remedial actions are encouraged to be flexible in seeking to resolve complaints which have merits and where the Public Protector finds systematic problems. It is important to propose legislation to alleviate them. Unfortunately, there is an increasing trend where courts have become a frequent arena on the remedial actions that have been proposed by the Public Protector. This is something that should concern us, as all it has a direct impact on the efficacy of the office. We hope that solutions will still be found in an amicable way with regards to the remedial actions and the Office of the Public Protector, because this office is expected to provide simple solutions as the background that we have been given with regard to CEDA. We hope that society will also play its role in this regard. I say this candidly because, like I said earlier, social justice is a critical component of our democracy, and it cannot be achieved without it can be achieved without the acronym of all actions being taken to courts. Our courts should really be an avenue of last results in resolving disputes. We owe it to our constitution to ensure that this office succeeds as our Makati. In conclusion, South Africans from all walks of life yesterday commemorated the life and times of one of our finest leaders, Oliver Reginald Tambo. He will have celebrated his 103rd birthday. Tambo, as an architect of our freedom, fought against injustice, abuse, and power, and the violation of human rights. This is a mandate that the Office of the Public Protector has amply advanced over the years. In remembrance of the struggles of Tambo and other leaders, the Public Protector should, through the confines of our Constitution, continue to address and resolve the damaging impact of violations of citizens' rights by those in authority. We wish the Office of the Public Protector well in its endeavors, and we salute all those whose resilience have contributed to the success of this office. From the inaugural Public Protector, Justice Batwa, Advocate Lawrence Mushwana, Professor Tuluma Donsela, and the incumbent Public Protector, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane. For the 25 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for the message of support and, more importantly, reminding us of the importance of the office as being a central place in transforming the public service. Thank you so much, and also for reminding us that we are the Makadzi. We greatly appreciate that. Before I can take the next address, I would also want to acknowledge Mr. Khaya Zweni from the Office of the Institution Supporting Democracy in Parliament. Thank you, sir, and welcome. We'll now take the address from the Honorable Speaker, Honorable Thandi Modise. Over to you, Honorable Speaker, with the message of support to the Public Protector South Africa.
Thank you, ma'am. Public Protector Me Mkhwebane, Mema Donsela, Ndate Mushwana, Judge Bakwa, Deputy Public Protectors, past and present, Minister, Mayor Jackie Mufokeng, ladies and gentlemen, it is always good to come together to observe and to even celebrate events, milestones, institutions, and sometimes even people. It is extremely important for us to pause and to consider the reasons why we feel that today is an important day. It is important because 25 years is not child's play. Why did we establish this office and all the others that are like it? What impact has the Public Protector's Office had in this country? Is there any wear and tear? Should we have done something differently? Especially looking at where Tanzania stands today, where we were when we first became acquainted with the Ombudsman Office. Where will this Public Protector's Office be 25 years from now? For me, it is important to categorically place it, to say yes, the apartheid system had two offices before us, but please remember, those offices were not inclusive offices. For the first time in 1992, in the negotiations, the ANC comes through and it says, now we want the public, an ombuds office which is independent, which is also inclusive, which respects every person within the borders of this country. So for me, that is the difference. The difference is that suddenly you have a public protector's office that is all ours. In a country that is looking forward, in a country that is acknowledging and accepting its diversity, in a country of differences, in a country that is racist, that is sexist, that is ethnic, in a country which is extremely rich and extremely poor. So you then come up with an idea of the Public Protector's Office, you come up with the Human Rights Office, you come up with the CGE, you come up with the Public Service Corps. You bring all of these Chapter 9 institutions because you have had enough of being slaves in your country, of being onlookers in your country. You suddenly have the little muscle to bring everybody together. So as we researched, perhaps it was that pain of being isolated, that pain of being stateless in our own country, that pain of always being reminded in your own country. So when we celebrated this 25 years, we're not just looking at this, we're looking at a people who mount a little hill and go on to recognize that it is a mountain that must be tamed, that must bring together all the strains of South Africans into one, a South Africa that we can all belong to. So it is important to say that Ndade Bakwa, when he is first identified, is seen as this voortrekker, the initiator, this person who comes in to set up the systems, the operations, this person who struggles for the first time with a budget of something that must cater for us, the previously excluded. This person who we may not have given too much space to because he was busy setting up systems. He was busy running this way and that way. But perhaps we didn't see much of Ndade Bakwa on the media because, firstly, the people he had to work with were firstly from the side of the ANC, very seasoned, previously trained in different respects in different countries, seasoned accounting officers. Secondly, those of the apartheid era who were still running the departments were the ones who were willing to buy into the Rainbow Nation. Thirdly, you had, for the first time, a black man who was going to lead something which was about uniting beyond the color and beyond the sex and beyond the religion. And he was calm. So I want to say that, Mem Kwebani, we should take our head off for the role of Ndade Bakwa during those years. We as Parliament, in those 10 years, did not have to interact a lot with Ndade Bakwa. And perhaps it is also because as Parliament itself was setting up its systems, it was very clear that one Bakwa, Selby, advocate, has been appointed by Parliament and is accountable by Parliament. And being appointed by Parliament means that Parliament also had to worry about the activities, the welfare, and the coping mechanisms of this public protector. And I want to assure you, Mayor Mkhwebane, that Parliament will continue to do that. That some of us don't care who occupies the position. It is the position, it is the country that we serve. It is not individuals. And I want to say also that when the ANC comes up and goes into these negotiations, remember, it is a time when the women come up and they say we want the Commission on Gender Equality. It is a stage where Bakwa is new, the office is new, he has relative peace. South Africans are not used to approaching government. They've never had a government, for God's sake, that is central, that cares about their affairs. So you look at those who follow in the footsteps of Ndade Bakwa, Advocate Mushwana, Mayor Thuli Madonsela. Now things have changed. One of the things is that we are recognizing all our genders in the country. We are recognizing women, and women are on the rampage, they're getting positions. So issues of gender, issues of domestic violence are coming to the fore. And I'm raising this because this office deals with public administration. It deals with the national and provincial and local government executives. So the issues which begin to come up is now women are on the rampage, the youth are coming up. For the first time in the country, we introduce into our lexicon terms like tender entrepreneurs. We do not begin to look at issues which create competition, create expectations amongst the people. We begin to also see the first crop of very able public administrators retiring and going away. We look at Parliament, which is supposed to be the haven, the protector, the cracker of the whip, also getting younger and newer and less experienced every 5 years. So you can understand how progressively from Muswana to Madonsela and to Mukwebani, this office now becomes very busy. It becomes busy because as we set up systems, we have also enacted. As we have policies, administrative policies, Parliament is not keeping an eye on each and every administrative policy which is being abused. We rely on the Auditor General. If he does not pick things, if he is not very rash to pick up on even the most hidden things, things fall apart. So I'm saying that progressively one can begin to understand that in 25 years, yes, this office is busy. Yes, this office is in the news. Yes, this office will attract the poor, it will attract talks, because the complexities of the issues, administration, maladministration, corruption, pure laziness and abuse are on the increase. So we must actually say thank you to all of you who have been there, you and your deputies. We must say that we need to continue to build on the structures that we have. We must also say that having institutions like this to buttress our democracy means that from time to time, we need to come back and see to what extent have things changed. When, for instance, this office was first set up, the economy was climbing, it was improving. The world was accepting South Africa for all the good reasons. We were servicing our debts, which we had inherited. We even wiped them out. In the recent years, the economy has been dropping. We have been borrowing. The public impatience, now that they understand how these instruments must work for them, is increasing. So you've got a lot of loads and things that we must deal with. That means that all of the Chapter 9 institutions and related bodies are now working in overdrive, competing for the resources that might not be there. Does it mean that we must just say, no? It means that Parliament needs to get to where it cracks the whip. Not the office on the institutions supporting democracy. No, that's not their role. That committee, Yakajeki Mufukeng, that is the committee that is responsible. Should Parliament go back and say, committee, you must now hand over? Because now we've got a little office in the Speaker's office which receives report. The report go to the Portfolio Committee and the Select Committee. The reports are scrutinized there. They are the ones who engage with the public protector on all the matters relating to their function. They are the ones who must help motivate if they feel that things are not going well, budget-wise or otherwise. So I would say that we should be proud as South Africans to have this office. We should wish it many more years. We should look at whether the wear and tear validates just continuing or a need to amend certain things to strengthen the voice of the people. Because for Tina, this is important because you can never vouch for democracy. There are many more parties which were not there in 1994 when this office was inaugurated. There are many more that might come in who have absolutely no memory of what things were in the past. And therefore, it is important for us to write a book that will be in the annals of the history of this country, that we will say, and this is where we were as the Public Protector's Office since 1994. This is where we are going. This is how we need to strengthen this public office. And congratulate you for the 25 years, as I said, to see you growing more, capacitating more, communicating more. And we must say that with the advent of the ICT, that you reach more people, that you reach more corners of South Africa. That must continue, because that is exactly what parliaments want, and that is exactly what parliament must do. What you can criticize us about is perhaps the enthusiasm of interacting at a committee level with all the Chapter 9 institutions. That is what we need to look at. So, Public Protector and all the others, may we have another 25 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker, for the message of support. Thank you also for taking the time to analyze the evolution of the office over the past 25 years. Moreover, you highlighting the complexities of the matters that the office is dealing with, and also acknowledging the increase in maladministration and corruption within the public service. Thank you so much. Before we can go to the next item, I also want to acknowledge two commissioners from the Human Rights Commission, Commissioner Amina and Commissioner Sibanyoni. Thank you for being with us this morning. We are going to now take the pre-recorded video by the former Public Protector, Judge Bagwa.
The Honorable, the Public Protector, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor to have this opportunity to convey a congratulatory message as we celebrate the founding of this most significant institution on the occasion of the completion of 25 years, a quarter of a century of its existence. It would be amiss of me not to commend most highly the founding mothers and fathers of our Constitution for having had the vision to ensure that the Constitution is underpinned by the Chapter 9 institutions and the Public Protector in particular. I commend them because the quarter of a century we are celebrating has demonstrated that a constitution that it does not enjoy the underpinnings can easily be blown away by the social, economic, and political winds of change, as has happened in many emerging democracies the world over. Introducing the Public Protector institution to the South African public in those heady days of the 90s was not an easy task. The challenges were myriad, as could be expected in a country emerging from an oppressive regime into a new world of freedom promised to millions of South Africans. The institution had to be established, staffed, and propagated in all 9 provinces of South Africa within a very short period of time. The people of South Africa were anxious not to just see new democratic structures being created, but to feel the impact and change of those institutions being brought into their daily lives. We had to train our staff, set up administrative systems, and ensure that our investigative capacity measured up to the best in the world. In doing so, we also undertook to professionalize the office by dipping into the skill sets in countries like Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and the United Kingdom, to mention but a few. The understanding of what the public protector was meant to achieve was limited not only within government, but also generally within the populace. For the institution to take root, we had to create a multifaceted strategy to enhance the understanding of the role of the office at all levels of society. What compounded matters was a seriously limited budget. From the very onset, our strategy was to firmly put the public protector not only on the South African map, not only on the African map, but also on the global map. We also went on to ensure professionalism in ombudsman offices in the Anglophone, Francophone, and Lusophone countries in Africa. We did this by holding numerous workshops, not only in South Africa, but also in those regions. The World Conference of all the public protectors, which was hosted in Durban in 2000, was testimony to that. The fact that it was opened by an address by President Nelson Mandela was a huge endorsement for the institution, not only in the South African context, but also internationally. Despite the challenges we faced, we were able to lay a firm foundation for the institution. That speaks volumes, not only about the staff I worked with then, but also about the staff that has run the institution throughout these 25 years which we are celebrating. It also speaks volumes about the people of South Africa and our commitment to a transparent and accountable democratic dispensation. It therefore behoves me to pay tribute and salute not only the public protector staff from 1995 onwards, but to the leadership of the institution throughout the quarter of a century we are celebrating. I do so because I can proudly say that the public protector is one of the most stable institutions that were established at the dawn of our democracy. The main source of funding for the budget of the public protector is the South African government. It takes some maturity in government to recognize that whatever tensions there may be, as the institution carries out its duties without fear or favor, the resources and independence of the institution remain sacrosanct in terms of the Constitution. That government have not faltered on that critical responsibility is a huge credit to them. In some countries where a similar institution has existed, when the shoe pinches, governments have used the fiscus to disable or cripple the operations of the office. I believe that our nascent democracy will survive not only because of the good men and women we have amidst everything else, but for the institutions we possess that hold the middle, and no less the public protector, which was aptly described by the Constitutional Court in the matter of economic freedom fighters and the Speaker of the National Assembly when the following was said, and I quote, "The public protector is thus one of the most invaluable constitutional gifts to our nation in the fight against corruption, unlawful enrichment, prejudice, and impropriety in state affairs, and for the betterment of good governance. The tentacles of poverty run far, wide, and deep in our nation. Litigation is prohibitively expensive and therefore not an easily exercisable constitutional option for an average citizen. For this reason, the fathers and mothers of our Constitution conceived of a way to give even to the poor and marginalized a voice and teeth that would bite corruption and abuse excruciatingly, and that is the public protector," a close quote. In conclusion, let it not be forgotten, in the words of President John F. Kennedy of the United States, that, and I quote, "If a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country," close quote. After 25 years, the public protector has not only received a firm mandate and a firm foundation, but also a strong commitment to execute that mandate. With that, you cannot but succeed to extricate our nation from corruption, from malfeasance, from bad governance and maladministration, and to steer it in the right direction. I wish you well for the coming years, and I thank you.
Thank you so much for the beautiful address by Judge Bakwa in absentia. I take note of two things specifically that he mentioned: professionalism, limited budget. We now move over to the next segment of the program, where the panel will engage in a dialogue. In this segment, we will reflect on the institution's achievement over the last quarter century, focusing on its impact on public service delivery and good governance in all state affairs. We'll also refer to the impact that the challenges that the institution has contended with throughout its existence, which include resourcing and failure by some of organs of state to give effect to the remedial actions issued by the office. We will now give over to Advocate Mamiki Goodman to make her introductory remarks, followed by Professor Madonsela, before we can then engage further. Over to you, Advocate Goodman. You are muted.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much, Ma'am Lusibane. Greetings to all, and special acknowledgement to the Honorable Minister of Justice, Mr. Lamula, the Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Thandi Modise, the Honorable Ms. Jackie Mafokeng, Professor Madonsela, Advocate Kalega, the DPP, and my special greetings and thanks to Advocate Mukhwebane for hosting this event. I also wish to acknowledge the representatives from the Human Rights Commission and all who are taking part in this wonderful conversation. Today, viewers and listeners will realize how 25 years is and how long, how short 25 years is and how long the 7-year service period is when one is carrying a responsibility to shape and deliver a smooth and stable democracy. Every public protector and deputies have given time and efforts in serving the people through this institution. And by doing so, we were all creating an investment for this country. Indeed, none of us wishes to see these investments walk out of the door. It is therefore important to continue to support the mission of the Public Protector Office, as well as other Chapter 9 institutions. And my congratulations to all who have crafted the foundation for this office. Many years ago, when I joined the Office of the Public Protector, as the Advocate Mushwana was also partly forming the foundation of this office from what Judge Patwa has done, there was a struggle to just bring the community to acknowledge that there is a public protector, to even listen to what this office offers in terms of protecting their rights, because people were concerned at that time. And even now, I'm shocked about basic human rights and needs. The people would always ask questions like, when are we having clean water? When are we having housing? And when are we having jobs? People were concerned about their personal security. And the idea of a public protector at that time was a far-fetched fantasy or a notion. The road that the first two public protectors traveled are different to the third one and the fourth one. Normally the designers and planners get the most challenges because there is no reference except to emulate other ombudsman offices internationally, whereas we have a different society that is heterogeneous. Reliance during the first 14 years rested heavily on support by other state organs, on their cooperation, on the collaboration, and on support and cooperation of stakeholders. There is always a context of operation during every period of 7 years of the tenure of every public protector. During my time of appointment, there was a review of the effectiveness of Chapter 9 institution that was led by the late Professor Kada Asma. There was therefore a struggle for existence as some stakeholders were assessing the impact this institution and the other Chapter 9 institutions were doing. The process helped to shape the new strategies and to increase our energies, because the Public Protector's Office must consistently demonstrate its relevance under every circumstances. Even during the COVID-19, it is always an opportunity for the Public Protector to demonstrate its relevance. The Public Protector's Office and other Chapter 9 institutions will always be scrutinized by stakeholders because it is the actual delivery and relevance of the office that is paramount. One question that every public protector gets to answer is whether there is always a need for the Public Protector's institution. There is always pressure in demonstrating value for the country. There is pressure in achieving a smooth and peaceful democracy. Public Protector remains even today the conscience of public service. That can never change. And the root of all other challenges that we experience today is integrity. A lack of integrity is causing a lot of cost for the state to deal with the challenges that we face today. I wish the public protector success, and I think that there is a lot during our interaction that we can demonstrate as successes. And also I hope that by the end of the session, the public protector can draw out mechanisms that can reduce the challenges that they are facing today. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate Goodman. We'll hand over to Professor Madonsela.
Thank you, Ms. Lisibane. Firstly, I just want to thank Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane and the Public Protector team for continuing the tradition of having a discussion around the Public Protector in 1 week in October, to just make sure that this institution remains present in the minds of the people. And I would like to greet firstly the Public Protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, and your team, and our seniors in the room, the Speaker of Parliament, Mama Thandi Modise, the Minister of Justice, and all the colleagues from all of the institutions that are represented today. I also want to greet the Deputy Public Protector and former Deputy Public Protector that are also in the room, as announced by the Speaker. Perhaps the first thing is just to affirm what my colleagues have said, that the institution was founded to strengthen and support constitutional democracy. And Bovens says that accountability is important for democracy. In the absence of accountability, democracies crumble. And why do democracies crumble when there's no accountability? It is because of the erosion of trust. And of course, the Public Protector is not the only institution that is there to ensure that there is trust. It is one of many institutions. But as everyone else has said, the architects of our democracy thought we needed more eyes and more ears to have a state that is accountable, responsive, transparent, and just generally alive to the needs of the people. Deputy Minister Nel once said, the constitution upon which the nation is founded is a grave and solemn promise to all its citizens. It includes a promise of representative and accountable government functioning within the framework of pockets of independence that are provided by various independent institutions. And one of those institutions is the Public Protector. And this comes from the so-called Oldgate judgment. And the minister was just reminding us about that. Former President Nelson Mandela reminded us that the Public Protector was important because even the most benevolent of governments have within them persons with propensities for human failings. And therefore we need a Public Protector, not because we have an evil government, but because we have humans. And you can see again, Minister Nel quoting the African National Congress saying the following in its manifesto in 1994. He says the following: the 1994 election manifesto of the ANC said that government administration exists to serve the people. It must be answerable to them. The ANC will encourage private citizens to use the independent Public Protector to investigate corruption, dishonesty, or violation of the rules of government on the part of, or violation of the rules of conduct on the part of government officials. Those found guilty will be dealt with. And I believe that the institution has tried to make sure throughout these years that this becomes a reality. But the Constitutional Court was mindful that as the public protector does its work, it might step on toes. And I remember that in the certification judgment, the Constitutional Court said the following: I quote, "The independence and impartiality of the public protector will be vital to ensuring effective, accountable, and responsible government. The office inherently entails investigation of sensitive and potentially embarrassing affairs of government. It is our view that the provisions concerning the removal of the public protector from office do not meet the standard demanded by the constitutional principle number 24. That was a certification judgment that understood that the public protector would deal with very difficult issues, and therefore the institution needed full protection. My colleagues have spoken about what has been the impact of the public protector over the years. I just want maybe to underscore what the minister said a little bit earlier. The Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development said that really pretty much the institution operated like the McCarthy, even before we used the word McCarthy, which I must say I was not the inventor. It was invented by the Ombudsman of Bermuda. She's the one who discovered that the institution actually does not come from Europe, although the name was given by Sweden. The institution comes from between Africa and Turkey. When the King of Sweden went to Turkey, he noticed how government had multiple centers of power and accountability. And when he went back to Sweden, he found that people were up in arms because government was not performing, trust had been eroded, and democracy was at stake. He then introduced this institution. My colleague from Bermuda alerted me to the fact that in Africa, there's been various forms of institutions like this, and one of those was the Venda McCarthy, and hence we used that as the symbol of the institution. But why was that important? Was that to do all of the things we did, we relied more heavily on our soft power as opposed to our hard power. I'll give you an example of Kuruman when schools were closed down there. Hard power would have meant you investigate and you tell them what to do, but soft power meant we sat around the table with them, with the police, with government, provincial, local, national, subnational. We also brought the priests, the chiefs, and everyone. And in the process, it became clear that there'd been mistakes from all sides. We even arranged for arrest by appointment. It's a long story. But the important thing is that once we had that agreement, by bringing people around the table, eyeball to eyeball, to feel each other's pain, but to understand each other, it was easier to reach an agreement, and the schools were opened. Sadly, in Oliphant's Hook, we did the same, but there were people, unfortunately, the young people we were negotiating with were controlled elsewhere. We would reach an agreement, come back to Pretoria, and then find out that the agreement has been unbundled by powers that may be. The Minister mentioned the importance of social justice through the public protector, and I think all of these Chapter 9 institutions advance social justice in one way or another, in that they level the playing field. And I think the public protector mentioned that in her address, and so did the speaker, about this being an institution where you don't need money. But what I discovered in my term was that it was more than not needing money. It was the fact that the public protector mediates the power imbalance. You don't just, for example, when you do mediation and conciliation, you don't act like they do in the private sector. You recognize disparities, power disparities, you recognize ignorance of the law, and you mitigate those. And in many of the cases that we dealt with, we did that. I was speaking to the Public Protector team, for example, about Mr. Skhosana, who eventually got his money. And the former statistician general, Mr. Padile Hodla, never forgets the taxi driver whose car had been taken away, and the Public Protector team negotiated. But the important thing about this team, though, is that it is an institution. Everyone is, according to the Public Protector Act, a public protector. Advocate Barkwa or Judge Barkwa spoke about building systems. And what I found extremely important when I came to the office was building leadership and professional capacity across the board. And one of the things I introduced was a standard operating protocol that takes an investigator from beginning to the end, right to the communication about a case, and also building capacity throughout the office so that the quality of service is the same. It doesn't matter whether you're being helped in Pretoria or in Cape Town, but that's been a moving feast, and I trust that that moving feast has been getting better and better. Speaker, you mentioned some of the cases, or no, Minister, you mentioned some of the cases. I mean, government came to the party on most cases, and I want here to support what Judge Barkwa said, that this office would not have succeeded if there wasn't respect for the rule of law. And it's not just giving money. Most of the time there was implementation, and this culture of rejecting most things is a new culture. And I really think in the interest of trust, it must end. For example, think about the Minister of Defense when I said to her, she must give somebody a house because through the defense's mistake, this person has lost the house. Even when her staff was resisting, the minister understood that fairness and justice requires that she gives this person the house. The same thing with the Minister of Correctional Services. When somebody had been fired, when it wasn't the intention to fire them, the intention was to board him, but in the end, he lost a lot of his benefits. And when we said, no, you must reverse this and start anew so that he doesn't suffer, and the minister was happy to do that. So basically, the office has an educational element to it. It transforms government through dialogue. And hence the idea of the McCarthy is it's about dialogue. I can talk about Cleveland's and I could talk about Vembe. And Papoteka Mkhwebane mentioned that with Vembe, there was an agreement. And it's partly because we were not using our hard power. Before we finalized an investigation, we would always give them the draft and then sit with them. But even after we finalize an investigation, when there's a resistance, we would sit with them. And they agreed. I honestly think to the Minister of Finance, you've heard everyone else, it is time that we really end the suffering of the Vembe people. It wasn't this government that made that mistake, but it was government. And it is the duty of government to correct mistakes of itself. It doesn't matter who the person was. It's not about people, it's about institutions. And just lastly, to create an ecosystem that is supportive, we also have made sure that the Ombudsman institution is strengthened globally. Hence, we established the African Ombudsman Research Center that the current Public Protector is chair. I was also chair, I was the founding chair of it. But there is also an instrument that we created that it really gives me a lot of joy to see it being quoted by ombudsmen. And the reason I want to also mention it was that yesterday we were celebrating the person it's named after. This instrument is called the minimum standards for African ombudsmen in Africa in collaboration between the ombudsman and the African Union. And I really think that it's called the OR Tambo Declaration on the Minimum Standards for an Effective Ombudsman Institution and cooperation with the African Union on strengthening good governance. And this is something we started. We had at least a couple of conversations with the AU, including a joint conference, and I'm glad that that kind of collaboration is continuing, because the idea is these institutions are there not as substitute for, not as a substitute for democracy, but they're there to strengthen democracy, to strengthen justice. On the question of implementation, we're not suggesting that implementation should happen even if there are mistakes, but we're suggesting that there shouldn't be a refusal to implement just because you don't like the institution. And we must remember that Adam Smith said that justice holds the edifice of society together. And when that fabric of society is broken, and then society, the fabric of society falls into pieces. Just last thing though is there's the paradox of having sharp teeth and wanting people to implement. I do know that the refusal to implement started when people realized that the effect of the 1996 Constitution was to give the institution sharp teeth. And this was confirmed initially in the SABC case, but ultimately in the EFF case that has been cited by colleagues. But anyway, it was always the intention of government to make sure that there's accountability. And I mentioned Bovens earlier. Professor Bovens, who I quoted at Stellenbosch in 2011 when I was addressing them, says that democracy remains a paper procedure if those in power cannot be held accountable in public for their acts and omissions, for their decisions, their policies, and their expenditures. And Nelson Mandela said, the issue of my offices, Nelson Mandela, I mentioned earlier that he did say that it's all about understanding that even the most benevolent of governments have within them those with propensities for human failings. So I want to congratulate everyone who's been associated with this institution from day one, the current public protector, my predecessors who built the ground on which we were able to move forward, but also the staff. You know, in that institution, I found people that had been there since the Bophuthatswana Ombudsman, the Advocate General. What I really liked about them is that they were all quintessential professionals who really had no political ambitions or political deals. And we were able to grow and to build and grow the institution together. And I do hope that currently and going forward for the next 25 years, you will continue to learn and grow together as an institution, and that government will continue to realize the importance of this institution in cementing accountability and public trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Madonsela, and thank you to Advocate Goodman. Thank you for the wonderful words of introduction. A few things that I pick up from the two last speakers. We need as PPSA to demonstrate our relevance all the time. I believe that's very, very critical, and also reminding us that scrutiny is part, or it's in the nature of the work that we do. Accountability, responsiveness, that is very key. And Professor Madonsela, you've touched a lot on the lot of bread and butter cases that you dealt with during your time, and we greatly appreciate that. I just want to take a few comments. We've got the chairperson of the Commission of for Gender Equality, who says, inspirational messages of support from our Honorable Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development and the Honorable Speaker of Parliament. Great that you mentioned CGE and how conceptualized, including the importance of addressing gender inequality and generic human rights violations that persist in our country. Thank you, Methandi Modise from Tamara Matebula, the chairperson of the CGE. We also would like to welcome our members of the public who are on YouTube and Facebook. One of them is Mr. Marcus Mutlatledi, who says, congratulations to such important institution of the Constitution. I am humbled to see the current and the former public protectors. This is a clear demonstration that if we work together, we can make SA better. Thank you, Ms. Democratlady. We encourage all members to comment and pose questions. If possible, we'll be able to read your comments here and pose those questions that you have. We are running a little bit out of time, and we also acknowledge the session that is taking place this afternoon at 2 p.m., the midterm budget review by the Minister of Finance. And whenever Honorable Speaker needs to leave and join that, we will welcome that Honorable Speaker. We'll now move to the questions to be posed to the panelists. I'll start with you, Professor Madonsela. You were involved in the drafting of the Constitution. What was the idea when the establishment of this institution was inserted in the Constitution, especially given the character it took in contrast to its ancestors?
Thank you, Program Director. The thinking behind the Public Protector was to reinforce public accountability. As the preamble to Chapter 9 specifies that it's about supporting and strengthening constitutional democracy. That is the idea for all of these institutions, but for the Public Protector specifically, it is to strengthen and support democracy insofar as administrative actions of the state are concerned, executive actions of the state, particularly ethical conduct of the state. And it also was given a mandate on corruption. It was said earlier that this institution was there since 1979, and therefore there was clear thinking between 1994 and 96 to change the character of the institution and give it more teeth. Hence, you will see the difference between the 1993 Constitution and the 1996 Constitution. The 1996 Constitution includes the ability to take appropriate remedial action, in addition to having the soft power, which is to persuade government to do the right thing.
Thank you, Professor. The next one also to you is one of the things that you had to contend with during your time as Public Protector. Before the EFF versus Speaker case, which you alluded to earlier, the office was being told by state functionaries that this office was not a court of law, and therefore they were not obliged to implement remedial actions. You said at the time that it rendered the office, I quote, a gate to nowhere. Share with us your frustrations at that time.
Thank you again. My call, of course, came when there suddenly was resistance. The weird thing is that at the beginning, people thought that the office did not have binding powers, but that like any other ombudsman, they would do the right thing, just purely based on respecting the powers of persuasion. And therefore, the early stages, there might be a delay in implementing remedial action, but certainly no direct resistance. Let's take the Nandoni Dam. It was decided by Advocate Mushwana. In fact, that was the first time there were concrete remedies. But when we came in and we pushed for remedial action, some of it was implemented, and the Public Protector indicated that some of it was outstanding. But there was never somebody who said, no, we don't want to implement. I think the very first time I had somebody refusing to implement it was one of the ministers. And I remember when I said it in Parliament, everyone supported us. And you know then the history that as soon as we started investigating corruption, which was expected to be done, and investigated ethical violations, which was expected to be done, then we started to get resistance. And of course, as everyone has said, you don't have to implement if you feel that the decision is going to derail proper governance. But it's the tone with which you handle this thing. And secondly, it is just the quick response that says we're not going to implement without even reading the report, because that suggests you're fighting. And if you're fighting with the public protector, you're fighting with the Kokotlaminis that this institution is protecting. And when we said they were wrong in saying the public protector does not have binding powers, the courts agreed that the public protector has two powers: soft power, which is to persuade when it recommends, and then hard power when it directs. First, the SABC case in the SCA is sort of said the same thing, that it has power that has legal implications, but I think it is the EFF judgment that confirmed. I just want to indicate to the media, if they are in the room, and law students, if they are in the room, that the Constitutional Court did not give the public protector binding powers. It was Parliament that gave the public protector powers that are binding and powers that are not binding, depending on what the public protector wants to do.
Thank you so much, Professor Madonsela. Now I move to the Honorable Speaker, Honorable Modise. One of the challenges that this office faces is the disregarding of its remedial action by some organs of state. These organs of state also don't take the reports they disagree with on judicial review. This leaves the complainants high and dry with a feeling that the system doesn't really work. And that could have serious implications for our democracy. Often such complainants would never afford to go to court. Is it your understanding that the National Assembly can intervene under Section 55, subsection 2 of the Constitution, in terms of which the Assembly must provide mechanisms for executive accountability?
Thank you very much. You are right. Section 55(2) says that Parliament must have measures. It also says that Parliament must ensure that the executive is held to account. Are there mechanisms in Parliament? Yes, there are. The public protector interacts directly with the Portfolio Committee on Justice. Whatever the issues they are taking there, that committee not only interacts, but it is also supposed to be the go-to, because they look at the annual report, the performance, whatever is there. There is also always been an open door policy between whichever of the institutions with the office of the Speaker and the office of the National Chairperson of the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. The same happens in the provinces. So there are institutions which are there. Should we be saying that there has not been problems? Yes, there were problems. I can look at the 5th administration, 5th Parliament, where there were altercations between the Office of the Public Protector and the Portfolio Committee, which I think the Speaker then tried to intervene, because it is not the done thing for altercations to degenerate from both sides to that level. I believe that if there are issues, that people must sit down, point out the issues, let the issues be ironed out. Now, if we take each other up, whether directly or through lawyers who write funny letters, the relationship degenerates, and then people back off, and you say, now we will deal with it legally and systematically. And that is not how you solve problems. You don't solve problems without speaking. So I would say, I would not say, let's leave it, there is no accountability. Parliament must continue to be the first port for the Public Protector's Office. It must protect its integrity. But equally, it cannot be that it is the office also that goes and brings down the standing of Parliament. So it's a two-way street. And I would say that I have said many a times, I think we need a sit down. I think we need to fix this. But you don't fix things when gazili shushu. You fix things when you can think rationally. Now, the portfolio committee, has it failed the public protector? They tell me they have not. They tell me that the interactions are there. Do we have annual meetings with all the Chapter 9 institutions? Yes, we do. Do I have an issue with the reports that go straight to an office in my office, which I do not see? Yes, I do have issues. And that is a parliamentary problem and not the public protector's problem. And that is a matter that we will sort out into the end. But it should be known that we represent the public directly. We must always protect any instrument that protects the public out there. What we need to do is also say that in the protection of the public protector, we must also remember that all public protectors come into being through Parliament. So Parliament can't go and just willy-nilly destroy its own. It has to look at whether the support is there. It has to be able to say that here things are wrong, here things can be fixed. It has to say these support materials are not enough. That is the kind of relationship that I think when you do your oversight, you do. You do not use the big stick, you speak. You understand what people are going through. Now, there are instances, for instance, in the 5th, just before the last term, where we, Membete and myself, had a bit of misunderstanding with the public protector. And it had to do with a complaint by the workers about an accounting officer, and which in the middle of us dealing with it, the public protector moves in. And then we say, wait a bit, but labor laws, whatever, shouldn't we be given the space to finish off here, and when we fail, then the public protector steps in. So there are differences like that. But would I say that there is a gigantic, unsurmountable mountain between us? No. So public protector's office can be assured where people go against it, we will stand up and say that is not it, that is not done. We will protect it as we will protect all the institutions supporting democracy.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, Honorable Speaker, for the assurance. Now moving over to Advocate Mkhwebane, what would you say is the impact of the disregard of the office's remedial actions by organs of state? Well, of course, some of them, not all.
Thank you so much, program moderator. And I think the speaker has definitely addressed the issue of utilizing the portfolio committee or even Parliament to assist us in the enforcement of our remedial action. The critical issue, which also Professor Madonsela mentioned, is that if the state institution is not implementing the remedial action, they are impacting on Ugogo Dlamini. It's more of that challenge which the public is facing. So if institutions, because during our investigations, we normally interact with the institutions we are investigating. It's either we utilize the alternative dispute resolution mechanisms where we all agree on the solution to assist that particular community, which Advocate Madonsela has been saying as its soft powers, or if we then issue a report, and before we issue a report, we do send that institution what we call a Section 7(9) notice, where we give them an opportunity as well to comment on our findings, to comment on what we have come to the conclusion on implementing the various legislative prescripts. So this is a process where always we try to work with those institutions. Therefore, it's a challenge when we issue a report and you discover that the institution is either, especially the ones who will not even comment or will not even implement the report, and therefore that impacts on the public at the grassroots. We have engaged, especially Parliament or the Speaker's Office, on some of the remedial actions which we had. For instance, the Gauteng South College, where there were challenges there, and the Minister of Education or higher education was expected to also intervene and make sure that the report is implemented. And the matter of Mviti, especially the one of the South African National Defence Force, where the minister was also requested to implement. And now we are also saying, at least say something. Either we sit down, we find each other. I think we've done that recently with the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Mutwaledi, where they were also have written a letter, and the state attorneys. We then also called him in, and then we engaged and we found each other on how the remedial action can be implemented, because it's not a hard and dry issue, but then we can sit down and find an amicable way to do that. I think that's the challenge which institutions must understand. But then I think going forward, we will do that more. And also with the Minister of Justice, we will also have to engage and see how we can work closely with the state attorneys' offices where matters are taken on review, possibly sit down and see how we can settle those matters for the benefit of the public. Thank you, program moderator. Thanks.
Thank you, Advocate Mukwebane. I just want to read a comment that is coming from Sinotando Yena, who is following us on YouTube. He says, congratulations, PPSA, on such great work over the last 25 years. The office is still doing great work in changing the lives of the poor South Africans. I humbly request National Assembly to fund this institution. Now, I would like to bring Minister Lamula on this one. The Public Protector is among the institutions whose operations are going to suffer dearly as a result of the looming budget cuts. We have seen the likes of the National Prosecuting Authority complaining about the very same issue. And we are well aware that the cuts are occasioned by the state of our economy as well as the COVID-19 pandemic. They are also government-wide. But given the impact on the fight against corruption, which according to the NDP undermines good governance, is there anything that the department can do, while we acknowledge the assistance that the department has provided us over the past 3 years? Is there anything that can be sustainable that the department can do to assist the institution financially?
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, even the department's budget is also being cut. This afternoon, the minister will announce, and I think it will be very clear to the public that it's a very difficult fiscal environment. So the department does continue to do its best to help all the institutions that it is able to help within its fiscal constraint, within the current kind of limited resources that we find ourselves in. And I think the motto we've adopted in Changano usually says, and I have since learned that this kind of an idiom is in all African languages. I just don't know with the rest of the others, but that's what I have been told. I think we're in that environment where we'll have to share the head of a locus as a nation and still make it work. So it's a responsibility that is now bestowed upon all of us, because the only way we can come out of this situation is that sharing and taking that collective guide and responsibility, with the hope that in the next few years we'll be able to get out of this trouble. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Just to translate the idiom for you in Swati, it says, just for those who have missed the Tsonga aspect, you can get it from the Nguni side of things. While we are still there, Minister, the NDP in chapter 14, it expressly mentions the Public Protector as one of the central institutions in the fight against corruption, and that this institution should be properly funded in order to be impactful in that regard. How then do we balance this as well as the constitutional imperative for other organs of state to assist and protect the Public Protector to ensure its independence, impartiality, dignity, and effectiveness, with the reality that there isn't enough resources in the government's kitty to go around?
Yeah, that's a reality that we are facing, and the practical situation is to live within the means, live with what we have, and do it to the best of our ability. And in certain instances, we might also be forced to prioritize some of the matters that we will have to deal with. This not only for the public protector, but it cut across the entire justice system. For example, the NPA, the Legal Aid Board, and everyone charged with implementing what is envisaged in the Constitution and also in the National Development Plan. The balancing act is now upon all of us, and to ensure that we still live and do what we're expected to do within these limited kind of resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Let me bring back Advocate Mkhwebane into the equation. You place a lot of emphasis on helping grassroots communities in line with a vision that you call Vision 2023. To illustrate who will be the hardest hit once the budget cuts have been implemented, please share with us the impactful cases that the office has dealt with concerning such communities.
Thank you, Program Moderator. The cases which we have done, I've mentioned them earlier as well when I was addressing where we've intervened with the communities of Masiphumelele, where we had to settle that matter, work with the City of Cape Town to resolve their challenges, and with the issues relating to access to water, issues of sanitation, and issues of the way that informal settlement is structured, and as well how can the communities then be moved to decongest the place. And also the community of Ikemeleng, which we've assisted also in Roodepoort, where we intervened as well. We called all parties together, and we managed to make sure that the department or the City of Johannesburg also then cooperate with us, and then we work together, and even the Minister of Human Settlement and that community was able to be provided with respectable houses. But then I must indicate that a lot of our complaints which we are receiving are bread and butter issues, are complaints where the state departments are failing to process any form of service delivery on time. There's a lot of undue delay, issues of abuse of state resources, abuse of power by the public servants. So what this issue of budget cuts will do to us, and already, yes, our budgets have been reduced by 16 million, and that will cut more on the compensation of employees. Therefore, it means that we won't have the capacity to deal with the number of complaints which we are receiving. But then to mitigate that, we will be rigorously working closely with institutions to establish their own complaints mechanisms, so that this is complaints which we receive, we can then refer those to those institutions, and the public servants must do their work. And then what we will focus on systemic challenges, and also bring to the fore challenges which or obstacles which we are picking up on service delivery, or also gaps which are there and checks and balances, and recommend those or make a remedial action to those institutions. Because remember, the public protector, our intention is to remedy any root, or make sure that the root causes of maladministration are dealt with, and we bring forth the remedial actions which will be implemented, and in the long run will be assisting the very same institutions in issues of good governance. Thanks.
Thank you, Advocate Mkhwebane. Honorable Speaker. The office presents strategic plans, annual performance plans, and annual reports to the National Assembly as expected in terms of the Constitution. When these sessions take place, the office also takes an opportunity to present its budget pressures or funding constraints. What we want to find out is what role does the Assembly play in funding the institutions such as the Public Protector?
The minister, as matters stand, you will remember that the Kada Asmal investigation came up with a report. That report was then taken to the National Assembly. 2 out of the 5 resolutions were then adopted. One of them was that the majority of the Chapter 9 institutions were saying that they want their budget to be routed through Parliament. The other one was also recommending that certain of these bodies must be amalgamated. Only 2 of those were established. But up to now, the budgets of all these institutions supporting the Constitution still reside and are motivated for and disbursed through the ministers, the National Executive, not through Parliament. Parliament has not moved to the extent that it has structures in place and people who can receive the budget and disperse it on behalf of these Chapter 9 institutions. So for now, the Portfolio Committee on Defense, the Portfolio Committee does what it's supposed to do. It receives the annual trainer, it receives the budget of the Public Protector's Office via the Minister of Justice. So I would think, if I was the chairperson of the committee, that I would have an interaction with the Minister and the Public Protector and say in real terms, Minister, these are the needs, this, because for now, the purse strings are not with Parliament, they are with the Minister of Justice. So what the Parliament can do is to hold the Public Protector's Office to account on the commitments, on the monies to activities which they have received, the plan and the reports and the performance appraisals. That is what Parliament can do now. What they must do, if matters improve, Minister, is to engage with the Minister and say there is a need here, can you spare this, can you do that? Until Parliament, firstly, has come out of its cocoon and establishes the structure that it needs, changes the way it is now structured, has a treasury function, we are unable to receive a cent on behalf of any other body except for ourselves. So that is the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the response. Now we move over to Advocate Goodman. Advocate, this office did not have a Deputy Public Protector until your appointment in 2005, following the 2003 amendment of the Public Protector Act. What were your experiences coming into the institution to occupy a position of leadership which was previously non-existent?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Looking at the delegation of the DPP, the initial ones that were published widely, one can see how much capacity constraints the office was experiencing for Parliament to even pass legislation to have a deputy appointed. The delegations were numerous and it was almost like a full Bible. I could see that the office bearer at the time had many ideas and passion to give more to the office, but for the capacity. As office bearers, we were juggling between performance of statutory functions, management and administration. There was no chief executive officer. Appointing a chief executive officer was allowed by the statute. So one of the things I really put my foot on was to appoint this CEO so that we can focus on the statutory functions and leave the management and administration to the capable managers. There was, I think Judge Batwa related so much about the foundational work, and Honorable Minister and Honorable Mayor Thandi Modise related on the historical challenges that then, which I don't want to repeat, but there was a serious need at that time to develop and consolidate policies, systems, rules, investigation, manuals, mediation, foundational work, training and knowledge management, dedicated research component, the ITC, because at that time, the office had outsourced the IT to CETA. So we were not so much independent, and the website was being built. There was also a need for dealing with a situation that the two public protectors was experiencing, was that there was a hybrid employment system. Some of the staff were coming from the justice system, and then some were appointed directly by the public protector. So there was a challenge in resolving issues of pensions. And then there was something like OCD, occupational salary dispensation. And we were defending our professional staff to be included as occupational specific employees. And we had to pay all of them in 2008 and 9. Backwards, we call them back pay from 2007. So the pressure of work raised the creativity, and we performed systemic investigation. It was one of the introduction that was brought by Advocate Mushwana, because without doing systemic investigations, when you don't have so much resources, it's catastrophic. So we established those components that can increase the effectiveness and efficiency in a very cost-effective manner. Some of them we will hear as the discussion goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Goodman. While you're still there, the issue of cooperation with investigation is seen to be as old as the institution. In your time, you had developed response protocols in terms of which the institution and some government departments agreed to set timelines. This was back when we did not have the public protector rules. Take us through that process.
I just want to also acknowledge the contribution that Professor Madonsela also added on this protocol. She had a different and a progressive approach as well. So I'd like to add to that. So the one that we developed at that time, I was coming from government, and I was also coming from practice. So the strategic plans and plan goals, the achievements of those were so important that there was no way we could just issue reports and wait. So project management and case management orientation was vital at that time, so that we can have the start and the finish of a complaint resolution. Since we decided to have a project plan for each and every case, it was also helpful, because some of the people that have never been in the public sector directly, the public service, would learn about case management or project management. The system avoided backlog. Management of cases that have been carried over from the previous year was a problem. A sense of speed without compromising quality was brought about by this initiative. And then the negotiating approach. Not losing the meaning and context of the PPSA as an ombuds office and not a court of law where you have to take 3 years to deal with a matter. So later, we then decided to promulgate the rules. And I was leading a team that created the first public protector rules that gave guidance on timelines. But what was important as I was listening to Advocate Mkhwebane was the management of the recommendations, because at that time, it was very important for us to create timelines with the state organs that we have already investigated and monitor the implementation of the recommendation. If you look at the old reports, you'll see that the recommendations were implemented. We never had serious challenges with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate Goodman. Just a few comments from the Pumlani Nyembe says, congratulations to the Office of the PP. We wish you more years of strength. Did Advocate Mushwana miss this event or its other engagements? We indicated earlier that Advocate Mushwana has had prior commitments, hence he could not be here. Wantuma Donsela says, could the Honorable Minister please translate his idiom? I'll try and do that for the Minister, which means siblings will always share the smallest portion of meal that is available. Tulani Lala says, I'm very inspired to see such great minds working together to change lives of South Africans. I've been anticipating for this debate. Imagine putting all of what you said into action and working together. Thank you very much to the people who are with us through the YouTube channel. Now going to Advocate Mkhwebane. You spoke here about the impact of the Nkandla judgment in that the office finds itself in court a lot. How do you deal with the litigation, especially in the context of the inadequate funding of the office? Is it true that the office is wasting money on litigations?
Thank you, Program Moderator, Ms. Lusibane. You know, when I joined Public Protector South Africa in 2016, October, already we had 16 matters on review, which were issued by my predecessors. I wouldn't indicate or I wouldn't know now how many by Advocate Madonsela and how many by other public protectors. But then we then also received additional matters or additional court applications, which the state institutions, which is within their right to take us on review if they don't agree with our findings. Because yes, Advocate Madonsela has mentioned what Parliament has said about our remedial action, but then the Constitutional Court as well going forward say, unless the remedial action is binding, unless set aside by a court. So you'd find that when we are taken on review, normally we wouldn't oppose those applications, but then when we oppose, it's purely to assist the court in understanding how we've investigated the matter and also understanding our mandate, acknowledging as well that courts are dealing with various matters which involves mandates of various institutions or as well various legislative prescripts. But then I must indicate that when we oppose the matter, then that's where you'd find that, or even when the application is lodged or motion is lodged, you'd find the party saying if you oppose the matter, then you will be subjected to costs. But then we are doing this, especially when we would want to assist the court, or as well when we would want to make sure that the public which has been prejudiced or which has been impacted by the report, also they find their voice through our affidavit or through us opposing the matter. But then what we are doing currently is that most of the matters we are not opposing, some we've withdrawn opposition, but as well we are, or where we are opposing, we are utilizing our internal legal services. And I must say, unfortunately, we only have one manager who's at the deputy director level who will have to then defend these matters on behalf of the institution where we've opposed the matter internally. This is a measure for us to save on cost and to make sure that we are not subjected to these litigation costs. But then I must also indicate, as I'm saying now, that we are now trying to find a way of making sure that we resolve these matters or we even settle these matters out of court, and we bring to the attention of that state institution what our remedial action means, and as well, we do include the issue of the monitoring of those remedial action. But then if the institution cannot implement them on time, there's no need for them to take us on review based on the time frame we've given, because we can sit down, agree on the time frame. But then I think Department of Justice has appointed a Solicitor General, and I think we will have more engagement with them, because most of those matters is state institutions which have taken us on review, especially utilizing state attorneys. And I think that is public or government money or public fiscal. So I think we will have to find a way of sitting down and resolving the matters out of court. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate Mkhwebane. Now to Minister Lamola. One of the unintended consequences of the EFF versus the Speaker case, which is the Nkandla judgment, in terms of which the binding nature of the public protector's remedial actions was confirmed, is that the office gets bogged down in litigation, as the public protector has just indicated. For instance, by the time Advocate Madonsela left the office, there were already those 16 applications to the High Court that the Advocate Mkhwebane has alluded to earlier. And that was the first time in history of the institution that there were so many matters that were being litigated or taken on review. It is believed that this was directly as a result of the judgment on Nkandla. Shouldn't then the government consider that the budget of the public protector be increased in this regard?
Yeah, no. Thank you. I think as the TP has already stated that the appointment of the Solicitor General also put into effect the State Attorneys Amendment Act, which also allow for mediation and other kinds of platforms to deal with any matter that relates to the state. And I think on the question that relates to the budget, they have now answered. I don't think I must answer it in different kind of questions individually. I think I have responded to this question that relates to the budget. But I think it's a discussion that can further be explored with the National Treasury in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I just want to read now a few comments that we have on the chat box from the colleagues that are with us on the Zoom platform. We have got Elsa B. Duval, one of the chief investigators, who says, it was my privilege to serve under every public protector since the inception of the institution in 1995. Seeing Judge Bakwa, Advocate Goodman, and Professor Madonsela again after a long time made me proud to still be part of this office and proud of the fact that I've dedicated my career to the Ombudsman institution. May we grow from strength to strength. Thank you, Advocate Mkhwebane, for arranging this wonderful celebration. That was Advocate Duval. We also have got Ms. Jacqueline Mutlahomang Mufokeng, the member of the Portfolio Committee. Congratulations to the Office of the Public Protector and the staff, and thanks to the former public protectors and deputies. The 25th anniversary is all your good work. On behalf of the Justice and Correctional Services Portfolio Committee, we wish you another 25 years plus and continue to serve the nation. Moderator, if you don't see me, please note that I will be traveling to Parliament for the House sitting, and thanks for the invitation. Thank you so much, Memo Fukeng. We have the last three questions, which now I will pose to Professor Madonsela. While the EFF versus Speaker ruling has been hailed as a seminal in that it disposed of a major hurdle in the path of this institution, it is evident that it also brought with it a bit of trouble. Some people say that the public protector is now something akin to a court of law, particularly with regard to the binding nature of its remedial action, and that in some ways this will be the institution's undoing. What is your view on this?
Program Director, I think they're correct that the confirmation of the hard powers of the public protector by the EFF judgment raised the stakes. And therefore people are afraid of being found to be wrong. I hear about the 16 cases. I don't know about them. In fact, some of the cases I only have heard about them now in public, like Mr. Gokha's case, What I would appeal to the Public Protector's team is, where possible, like we've done with the Vembe one, let's talk when these come for reviews. When I was there, I think there were about 4 or so of these reviews. Speaker and Minister of Justice, I do think that there is an ethics issue about the implementation of the Gogo Dlamini. I mean, a lot of the cases that I have since just found out in the media that they were taken on review and the complainant lost are Gogo Dlamini cases. And that bothers me a lot. And as the Public Protector said, we could discuss these matters. These are our people. I know one journalist said we shouldn't call people our people. But for me, when I say they are our people, I mean they are our blood and flesh. And when a decision is made in their favor, it's not made lightly. And secondly, let's take the Vembe people. They don't have the money. Somebody was telling me that they've been collecting money from villagers now under COVID when everyone is hungry in order to go and defend this matter. And I was overjoyed, Minister, when you were saying we need to talk, because that was the advice of senior counsel as well, that the current Public Protector, myself, and the Minister of Finance need to sit down, because there's a breach of trust. Firstly, government said yes, even in writing to my final report. And then suddenly, when relations go sour, then the people are dropped. That's eroding trust. So just the quick answer, yes, there seems to be case hardening in ombudsman training. And I think we need to see it, because some of it, I don't believe, as Speaker, that a Parliament will only have to wait until there's a report. Once we've issued a report and there's no implementation and they haven't gone to court to oppose this matter or to go on review, it's an unethical conduct on the part of the minister concerned or the municipality concerned. And we have to remind them that this is eroding trust, undermining democracy, and putting peace at risk.
Thank you so much, Professor Madonsela. The next one is the last question to the Honorable Speaker. There is a question of the politicization of the office. In your view, is the Parliamentary Joint Committee on Ethics and Members' Interest effectively utilized to hold members to account? This question comes against the background of a lot of cases lodged by members of Parliament with the Public Protector under the Executive Members Ethics Act, and how the office gets politicized as a result of such cases.
Thank you, ma'am. The Joint Ethics Committee comes into being in terms of the joint rules of the both houses. It has members on both sides. It is deliberately chosen. The members are even screened so that we do not have issues of non-trust in the ethics and the fairness and the non-partisan of the members who sit on that committee. But we are all human beings, we don't know what happened. Now, politicization, it shouldn't be, because what should happen is that if there is a complaint, that complaint about any member of Parliament, remember now that the President and some 4 members of the Executive may not be members of Parliament. There is a problem there, which we're not saying is unsurmountable, but any member, including the ministers who are members of Parliament, any complaint that comes to our table is referred to that committee. That committee is supposed to then deal with the matters. Now, in the last term, that committee did not conclude its work. And that is why, and there were issues, very interesting issues. There were burglaries, there were disappearances of documents. Then the committee would not correct. And therefore, when the 6th Parliament came, we had to deal with a draft report, which we then said we're not dealing with it because these are the new incumbents. And we had to resuscitate matters to hand over. So for us, it shouldn't be an issue of politicization. People must deal with the issues and people must be honest with dealing with the issues. It shouldn't be about who. It should be the matters there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm going to pose now a question to Professor Madonsela. The mandate of this office under the EMEA exposes it to blistering attacks from politicians, as you would know. How did you deal with these unwarranted attacks from political formations?
Thank you, ma'am. There were those attacks, and my main approach, or the main approach of the office, was to sit down with the people who attacked us. I do recall, for example, Premier Zille was not happy when I had issued a particular report, which ended up being, yes, we made mistakes. We sat down with her. When we had an attack from the governing party, we requested a meeting. I remember the team and I were somewhere in the mountains having a strategic planning meeting when we heard that there were these blistering attacks, as you call them. And we called a meeting with them, and we went there as a team, senior management plus the communications team, because a whole lot of the attacks, some of them are not really coming from a place of malice. They come from a place of fear, of not understanding why you reached a particular decision. And in the end, we would then issue a statement where we affirm understanding each other's positions and agree on how we're going to do things going forward. We also had events like this. The Public Protector Good Governance Week went with a conference where we'd invite the same people, some of the people that have said things about the powers of the office out of misunderstanding, and have them as speakers to present their views. And when it came to the feature, we would hold them to what they said at these conferences. And then, of course, lastly, when I was attacked, when somebody called me a spy, I did use my the Public Protector's contempt of the Public Protector powers and threatened to use them. I asked the fellow to withdraw his lies within 7 days, or I was going to go for contempt. So it's partly using your soft power and partly using your hard power. I must also then say, though, it is also important that we go back to the Mail and Guardian case, where the court said the issue of the trustworthiness of the Ombudsman institution is equally important. So much as we dealt with all of the attack, we also improved our own system to make sure that where the complaints were fair, we improved the way we gathered evidence and the way we told our story. We also sought to improve transparency by having those Section 7(9) notices that gave them a sense of what is being planned, why, and gave them an opportunity to advise us to decide differently if they thought there was room for making a different decision.
Thank you so much. That was the last question. I just want to read one last comment from the colleagues that are part of us in the Zoom platform. Congratulations to the Office of the Public Protector on its 25th anniversary, appreciating that Chapter 9 institutions would perhaps better advance the protection, promotion of human rights and democracy through working in a strategic collaborative partnership to advance democracy in the interest of the poor and the vulnerable, so as to strategically manage scarce human and capital resource to the best advantage of the society at large. This demonstrates the level of maturity of our nascent democracy in our country, recognizing the powers of the Chapter 9 institution as frontline human rights defenders. All the best to the PPSA. This is from Commissioner Mohamed Amiemia. We've come to the end of the questions. I would like, however, to give each one of the panelists to give us their parting shots. I'll start with Honorable Speaker, where you just give us your parting shot, and then we'll go to Professor Madonsela, we'll go to the Minister, we'll go to Advocate Goodman, and it will be the Public Protector who has last.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I do wish to say that it would be a good thing to have meetings. To have meetings between the different stakeholders, not the mass meetings which we have once or twice a year, Public Protector in the Speaker's office, but a meeting where we can sit down and say, this is coming up, this is going right, this is not going right, these are the needs, these are our problems with the ministry, so that we can be able to understand what is going on. It would also be good for us as Parliament, when we pick up issues, to be able to approach and say, this is what we're picking up, where are you, what are you saying? Because that way, we are from both sides able to stand up in public and protect. And we need to make a distinction between protecting the office of the Public Protector and putting aside the squabbles which might happen between individuals. That's not important. What is important is to always protect the integrity of the office, and therefore respect the incumbent because we respect the office. And that, for me, is the most important thing. But otherwise, I would say again, another 25 years would be very nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Madonsela.
Thank you, Program Director. I just want to thank, firstly, again, Advocate Mkhwebane, the Public Protector, for this event, and congratulate the team for 25 years of excellent service to the people of South Africa. And going forward, it is my wish and hope that the institution will continue to grow in its capacity to earn trust and deliver excellent service. It's a moving feast. It's an ongoing task. To government, my hope is that a new culture will emerge, especially now under COVID-19, when people's tempers are rising. A new culture will be emerging where there's a very clear decision in favor of the people. The Public Protector is assisted by making sure that there's implementation. And where there's disagreement, there's firstly a discussion, and then the matter goes to court, but nobody just sits and does nothing. And thank you to Minister Ronald Lamola. My also hope is that moving from here, we're going to have a meeting with Treasury about the Vhembe matter. And I repeat, the current government didn't cause the problem. No government in the last few years caused the problem, but the problem was caused by the state of South Africa. The Public Protector solved that problem. Government agreed that it was going to implement. Not implementing is a breach of trust, but it's also just a cruel thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Madonsela. Advocate Goodman.
My last words are to congratulate everyone who is here and everyone who's been there from 1995, who made contributions to this office, including Parliament, the Minister of Justice, and all stakeholders. It is my plea that we continue to support the mission of the Public Protector's Office, and Advocate Mkhwebane should not be shy to say, come and address our staff, our investigators, and motivate them, strengthen them, especially their willpower to continue serving under constraints. My last word is that no matter how hard the circumstances, you should keep on going, carry the mandate, and focus on delivery of a strong functional democracy that opens doors for socio-economic development in this country. Congratulations again, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Advocate Goodman. Minister Lamula.
Thank you very much. I had the input with regards to the vendor pension fund. Hopefully, we'll be able to engage with the National Treasury to understand the situation. And lastly, to state that I think from our side, we have already started engagement with the Office of the Public Protector with regards to various issues that affects the operations of the office, including budget and many other issues. And we will really want to continue with these discussions because we know that even though we may not be able to have resources, but from time to time when we engage, we're able to help and find common ground, including solutions to some of the bottlenecks and the challenges so that the institution could be for another 25 years or even more. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Advocate Mkhwebane.
Thank you, Program Moderator. I'd like to take this opportunity and thank the Speaker and for the support today and going forward as well. And thank Professor Madonsela for your support. And I think we will have to work more together so that we can resolve all those litigation matters which were there before, but then I think as well that will help us to be able to serve the public and as well defend the public or as well protect the public, especially those who don't have the resources to take the state to court. And Advocate Goodman, thank you for availing yourself in front of everyone. Definitely, we will come back to you so that you can assist us. And now we have challenges because of our resources. We try by all means to also utilize the services which we can receive from other institutions or individuals who can provide the services to us where the need arises, especially depending on their expertise. Thank you so much, Minister of Justice, and I would like to thank your department a lot and your team, because through the past 3 years when our budget was cut, you were able to assist us and so that we can remain afloat. And if it was not for you and your department, we would have challenges to even compensate our employees or even pay for our contractual obligations. But then to South Africans and to everyone, again, as the Speaker has indicated, that we should protect and make sure that the institution of Public Protector is remaining there and having integrity, but as well being able to protect the poor, the marginalized. We should make sure that we respect the institution from all areas. We assist the Public Protector in the investigation and cooperate as well, because whatever work we are doing to serve the public, and we are doing to support various ministers and state institutions. And I think I will just end by saying to the Public Protector team, you work under very strenuous environment and a lot of challenges, not having enough resources to do your work and having a lot of workload. But I think let's continue serving, because this institution is part of serving the public without even checking your own interest, but then selflessly serving the public. And I think it's for the best of everyone. And thank you so much to all who have listened. And thank you, program moderator. You made our job so easy. Thank you to everyone. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Advocate Mkhwebane. And now I'll hand over to Advocate Kollega Gcaleka to give us a summary of the key points and also do a vote of thanks. Over to you, DPP.
Thank you, Program Moderator, Ms. Yalegile Lusibane, the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Honorable Umamuthandi Mudise, the Minister of Justice, Honorable Ronald Lamula, Honorable Member of the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Correctional Services, Umamucheke Mufokeng, in absentia, Judge Selby Barqwa, Advocate Lawrence Mshwana, present with us, Professor Thulisile Madonsela, the current Public Protector, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, the first Public Protector, Advocate Mamiki Goodman, in absentia, the second Public Protector, Advocate Malunga, the chairpersons of the various ISDs present here today, the ombudsman from across the continent present here today, participants and audience on the various media platforms, I greet you all. I have an honor and privilege of recapping the main thrusts of each of our panelists' contributions to today's dialogue as we wrap up what I can really call nothing short of down memory lane. 25 years since the establishment of Public Protector South Africa. Kindly allow me to say that Public Protector South Africa is an important spoke in the wheels of our public accountability and integrity framework. It is a unique institution no other body in the world compares to. It was tailor-made for the South African context, given our past, which has also been articulated by our panelists here today. Allow me to borrow from the words of the inaugural Public Protector, Judge Selby Barqwa, on the 13th of March, 1999, where he said, I quote, "The office of the Public Protector has a dual function. It is not only an investigative body, it serves also as a catalyst for change and as a barometer of problems arising in the public administration, which should come to the attention of government. It is therefore an office that can be engaged usefully in tackling problems within the administration." I unquote. It is clear that the work of this institution can be compared to the purpose of a mirror. Ours is to simply hold the mirror to the state so it sees its reflection, warts and all. The expectation is that the state will then take the opportunity to make amends where they are warranted. Given the reflections by speaker after speaker here today, it is clear that holding the mirror to the state is all this institution has done over the last 25 years. And it is all that we need to continue to do into the future in order to hold the state accountable to the people who are in fact the government of a democratic dispensation. it is important that we help the state to realize these ideals. For us to achieve, we need the support of the stakeholders. In fact, organs of state in particular are enjoined by the Constitution to having to assist and protect us in order to maintain our independence, impartiality, dignity, and effectiveness. That protection and support comes in many forms, and most importantly, through the engagements that we've seen unfolding here today, where we've had the different arms of state. The legislature was here represented by the Speaker. Government is here represented by the Minister of Justice. That for us is support. And listening to these constructive deliberations here today, I get a sense that we are headed in the right direction. When you look into Vision 2023 of Public Protector South Africa, it is a furtherance of the work that began 25 years ago. It is clear and it is embedded on being a voice of the voiceless, furthering the wishes of poor, of those to whom government is not accessible, to Ogogo Dlamini, Professor Madonsela. We are hopeful for the future that this institution will continue to occupy its rightful place in the public accountability and integrity framework. Let me take a moment to reflect and thank those who sacrificed and served before us. Beginning with Judge Selby Barqua, who today also gave us a wonderful and an encouraging message. Your establishment of this institution embedded on a strong framework on which up until today we stand. It is always said, even in a community, a foundation of a child is what determines its future. It is clear on the work that you have done of a strong and firm foundation. Moving to Advocate Mushwana, on the continuation of the footsteps of Judge Selby Barqua, the development of the legislation that you had embarked on. For us to be where we are today, legislation is always a cornerstone of our legal framework. Your contribution in that respect will not go unnoticed for future generations. To Professor Thulisile Madonsela, who became the first female to occupy this position during the time when the tradition was that it's only males who can carry the rule of law. You became a true Makadzi in the embodiment of Public Protector South Africa. You carried the institution even further. You developed a strong jurisprudence for the institution. You developed precedents which we today are proud of and are defending with the most we can. We thank you, Advocate Madonsela. To Advocate Mameki Goodman, the first Deputy Public Protector, you showed the road to what support means. You had to create precedence of the office of the Deputy Public Protector. You had to assert what support means, which has remained with us even today, which has enabled me to stand where I am standing today. And indeed, as you have said, we are the reminders of the consciousness of the state and of government. And for the work that you have done, we thank you. To the current Public Protector, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, you have furthered Vision Public Protector South Africa. You are resiliently, steadfastly, and truthfully standing by that vision. Your leadership, most importantly, by what you have shown today, of bringing together all the public protectors to reflect on Public Protector South Africa and be able to sit and hear and listen how this foundation on which we are standing on has been established is for us a clear indication that you are dedicated to stand firm on the history of this institution and to further it. Yes, with the strong jurisprudence that has been created of this institution, there is going to be resistance. However, your commitment to stand by what is enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa to ensure the impartiality and the independence of this institution is greatly appreciated. We thank you. I wish to move over to the Speaker of the National Assembly, Mamuthandi Modise. Your office stands as a defense to the office of the Public Protector. It is the office to which, when all happens, when there's nowhere else to go, we know that there is an office of the Speaker. There is the leader of the National Assembly. And we thank you for having provided that leadership and for your continued commitment, even in this platform today, specifically to say, let us sit down and talk. Sithi isiXhosa izinto zonakala ngokuthetha, ziphinde zilungiswe kwangokuthetha. We thank you, Mama Modise, for your commitment ukuba masilungise izinto. Let's sit around the table and let's talk. And we further really wish to assist so that your office can further realize the independence of the Office of the Public Protector. Indeed, what is envisaged is that the budget of offices, including that of the Public Protector of independent institutions supporting democracy, must go through the National Assembly as opposed to the current form. That for us would cement our independence. To the Honorable Minister Lamula, PP has said it in full, your support. You came in, you took the baton from your predecessors, and you have been in full support of our office. And we also appreciate your commitments to further assist us with the current shortfalls that we are facing. But again, thank you for reminding us of the words of Utadu Mandela on the founding of the institution such as ours. Indeed, for as long as we have people like Gogo Dlamini, for as long as We have the people of Ndwedwe who were documented in the last week of drinking poisonous water. The Public Protector's Office remains relevant. It remains critical to strengthen this democratic dispensation. To the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Correctional Services, thank you so much for your continued support, listening to us, your constructive criticisms, which take us back to reflection each and every time. For that, we are truly grateful. To the ISDs, thank you for their support. Thank you for being there when we call out. You are much appreciated. To the ombuds throughout the continent, thank you for the lessons all the time. You are appreciated. And to the public, thank you for your confidence that when all is gone, when hope is finished, you know where the last line of defense is. You still recognize the Office of the Public Protector. You have grown us. You continue to grow us. It is through you that today we are celebrating 25 years. To the colleagues, former public protectors, former deputy public protectors, we really hope that, especially during these trying times of the institution, that you are going to be there as the fountain at which we can quench our thirst. It is very critical at this stage that you become our support. We defend the existence of the institution as envisaged by the Constitution. I wish to, at this point, reaffirm what the Public Protector has also stated in her address, that we commit to assisting in building an ethical development state. In doing so, we commit ourselves to carry ourselves with utmost integrity, required ethics, professionalism, and the servants of the people of South Africa. At this stage, when I reflect on what has been deliberated here in my closing, I wish to just share with you what was illustrated in the book of Tom Bingham, The Rule of Law, where he illustrated the critical role that those in whose hands the rule of law is entrusted. Therefore, it is imperative that we remain steadfast in our conviction to apply the rule of law fairly, without any fear, favor, prejudice, and with utmost integrity, because it is in this conduct of ours that our decisions will be judged, that the existence of the rule of law and social justice would be believed in. With that said, I wish to thank you all, and most importantly, lastly, to thank our moderator who perfectly moderated this session and eloquently taking out what the meaning of this commemoration of 25 years of the existence of protecting the people of South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you so much, DPP. We greatly appreciate the words of the vote of thanks, as well as the summary of the key points of today's discussion. I would like to apologize for the run on time. We've come to the end of the session. I now want to thank everybody for their time in partaking in today's session. We greatly appreciate you. Honorable Speaker, all the best for the next session, as well as the Minister Thank you so much. We've come to the end of the session. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you. The best. Thanks, Minister.
Prof, that
Bye.
wedding you didn't invite me to.
Pardon?
That wedding.
Oh, there's still going to be a big one, Speaker.
I know I'm coming.
Thank you. Goodbye. Oh my God. It's been a huge